The previous season was a shock to many, as we managed to be the first unbeaten team in the Scottish Premiership outside of Rangers and Celtic, along with making a miracle run to the Champions League final that saw us fall to Real Madrid. But after signing a new contract, my first order of business in the off-season was to renegotiate Luis Guilherme's contract. His agent had other ideas, as did I, as I declined an Arsenal offer for him.
It doesn't matter what I say, it doesn't matter what you say, now it's too late.
Wang Zi was the first one to leave, going to Arsenal for $30.5 million. Divine Wrench was making it clear he wanted to leave the club, going as far back as last season, and when Real Madrid offered $39 million, I was okay with letting him go. Eventually, Luis Guilherme left as well, as we accepted an offer from West Ham United for $46 million. This definitely did bolster our transfer budget numbers, so I started looking around to get replacements for the guys who are leaving now and who also left back in January. But rather than solely going with youth, I realized that we were going to need experience as well. So the key two preseason signings we have are Mateus Cunha from Sassuolo and Renato Sanches from Roma. A costly bit of business, but if it meant getting over the hump when it comes to the Champions League, it's a cost I'm willing to pay. We also found a young winger in Tamir Al-Amri in the Iranian league and brought him over for $250k. The board kept their expectations at bay for the Champions League, but they are demanding complete domination within Scotland, which is acceptable. And from our first game of the season, Adam Lozak is out to prove a point about missing the Champions League final by scoring a hat-trick on his return, giving us a 3-0 win over Ross County. August did not have a lot of fixtures, but we did clear through them with flying colours in the two Premiership games we had and the second round of the Scottish League Cup against St Mirren. That led us to the summer transfer window, and there is a certain wonderkid midfielder who was wanting out of his current club in Italy. So after crunching some numbers, we brought in Oscar Gluck on deadline day to be a part of our attacking midfield.
Gas!
It is then that our Champions League matchups are announced, and looking at the lineup, it's kind of a murderer's row of elite team after elite team. It's not easy, but look, we've been consistent with dealing with whatever Europe throws at us for years now. September was going to get busy, but we were staying busy as well, continuing to go unbeaten in the Premiership with wins and draws alike, and advancing in the Scottish League Cup after a 4-0 routing of Ross County. But the two big matchups of the Champions League group stage in this month were our primary focus. Man City was out for blood from last year's quarterfinals, and after another game that was including some last-minute goals chaos, we managed to survive the Etihad and come out with a 2-1 victory. We wouldn't be so lucky against Bayern, as they fought back from what looked to be a game-winning goal by Callum Patterson, with Giovanni Reina scoring at the death for a 2-2 draw. October ends up being our best month yet, with victories across all competitions, including an absolute thrashing in Motherwell with an 8-0 win, Oscar Gluck scoring a hat-trick against NK Osijek, beating Hibernian for the umpteenth time. The downside was, unfortunately, Adam Lozak getting injured for 2 to 3 weeks halfway through the month. November is a bit of a mixed bag, as tough draws against Ajax and Arsenal have us outside of the top 8 in the group stage in the Champions League. Although the month is not all that bad, as we defeat Rangers 3-0 and win comfortably against St Johnstone twice, including a 4-0 win in the Scottish League Cup semi-final that puts us on the crash course against Celtic in the final. And given what happened last time that there was a trophy on the line against Celtic, I just have one thing to say to that lot.
Congratulations. I want my rematch.
We do manage to catch Borussia Dortmund napping in their own home, beating them soundly 5-0, and it's right around this time in which a very interesting prospect makes his way back from a loan spell. So around this time last season, I found a young Scottish prospect that looked like he had the right stuff as a striker, but needed some playing time. After arranging a loan to MLS's Nashville SC, we shipped him off, and now he's returned in a state that he's ready to play in the Scottish Premiership. So in our next game against Celtic, we brought him off the bench in the second half, and he makes good on his debut with an absolute rocket of a shot to secure a 3-1 victory. It's a good thing he's coming up because Kwon Chang-hoon is going over to RB Salzburg in January. That's Celtic game in the Premiership and is one in which kicks off a string of clean sheets for us against Livingston, Kilmarnock, Motherwell, and Ross County. But while those games are crucial to keep ourselves in first place, the key game in December for us is the League Cup final against Celtic. Lozek opens up the scoring at the 35th minute, but Giovanni Cabral comes up with the tying goal in the 81st minute after getting a step ahead of our defense. Thankfully, Jaden Jarrett got the memo from the moment that extra time started and certified his place in Hearts lore with a goal in the 91st minute to give us our Scottish League Cup trophy. Having gone undefeated during the entirety of December, we keep that form going at the start of January and even give Lille a similar treatment to what we did with Dortmund in the Champions League. That run of wins promptly comes to an end with a draw against Atalanta, but on the bright side, we are at least making the knockout playoff round of the Champions League. We still keep it moving in the Premiership with wins, and then beat Dundee United 3-0 in the 4th round of the Scottish Cup. As for the winter transfer deadline day, Ian Matsuda departs for Liverpool for 20 mil.
24 hours later.
That's pretty much it. Huh? Oh yeah, no, we got pretty much everyone we needed. We are good to go for the rest of the season. The February schedule is packed, including our 5th round Scottish Cup matchup against Inverness CT and the knockout playoff matches against Benfica. But thankfully, the injuries don't bring us too much harm as we proceed to win decisively against Inverness in the Scottish Cup and then proceed to wipe the floor against Benfica in both legs of the Champions League. Powered through it by a returning Giuseppe Pada, scoring 6 total goals across both legs.
Unit lost.
After Radoslav's injury and a pair of wins against Aberdeen and Dundee United, we get our round of 16 draw in the Champions League, and it's against Liverpool. They set up that 2-leg in early March, and due to scheduling, we've got the first leg of the Champions League match 2 days after a Premiership match against Rangers. So I do the conscious thing of rotating our lineups to keep our starting 11 fresh for the Liverpool game, and Rangers does beat us 1-0 with a Sebastian Wassell goal. They are finally the team that snaps her 89-game unbeaten streak in the Premiership. But I'll gladly sacrifice that streak of games if it means winning against Liverpool. The first leg definitely escalated quickly with both Mohamed Salah and Mateus Cunha getting themselves red carded before the end of the first half, and with Potter scoring in additional time. But our former main man Emre Tezgel puts one in the net to tie it, and Eduardo Camavinga gets the go-ahead goal as we are beaten 2-1 in our own house.
One week later.
It's time for us to head to Anfield to take on Liverpool for the second leg. After a quiet first half, Shamsuddin Mardin scores the equalizer after an amazing pass from Lozek. The game looks set to go to extra time, but at the death, Caicedo makes a mistake handling the ball, and Lozek finds the back of the net. Victory from the jaws of defeat, and with it, we are headed to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So we get our proverbial boogeyman of this entire 6-year run that I've had as a head coach. Great. After that announcement, we take Dundee FC to the woodshed in the Scottish Cup as a 4-0 win punches our ticket in the semi-finals against Aberdeen. Wins against Ross County and Motherwell to end the month leads us into April and having yet again another huge point gap before the Premiership split occurs. It's at this point where we start the month against Celtic, and while they rescue a 2-2 draw against us, the result is still enough to crown us Scottish Premiership champions for the 4th year running. Needless to say,
This is my yard now.
but this is the moment of truth because Real Madrid is coming to Tynecastle Park for the first leg, and in the second half, Hubings threads the needle and finds Mateus Cunha and allows Cunha to finish it off with a volley for the sole goal of the entire match. While it's only a 1-0 win, this means I finally have a victory in the column against Real Madrid, and we go into the Santiago Bernabeu with the advantage. The pressure is now on Madrid to get a result at home.
Several days later.
So after an absolute comedy sea of errors on the part of everybody on Real Madrid's side, Matheus Cunha opens up the scoring yet again. To their credit, Real Madrid responds within 5 minutes with Endrick finding the back of the net. An Oscar Gluck corner kick finds its way to the far post and onto the head of Enzo Chiafolo. With the game being 2-1, we go on the defensive, and while Endrick yet again finds the back of the net against us, the game itself ends 2-2. We survived our journey to Madrid, and well, we're headed back to the Champions League semi-finals. And this time around, we're getting a rematch from the group stages against Arsenal. It's at this point, after dealing with Madrid, where we have the Scottish Cup semi-final in place against Aberdeen, and thanks to Giuseppe Potter's brace, we are on to the Scottish Cup final yet again. And this time, it's a rematch against Rangers from 2 seasons ago. It's at this time where the Premiership splits itself yet again into the Championship and relegation groups, and while there's no unbeaten season to be had, we use these games to rotate the lineups and have our younger players show a bit more of their stuff. Between these Premiership games at the end of April through May, we've got the 2 legs of the semi-final against Arsenal. The first leg at the Emirates ends up being a defensive battle, ending in 0-0, but that is only because of Emiliano Martinez stepping up when we needed him most and saving a crucial penalty kick.
Striker. We need a new striker. Really badly.
The second leg at Tynecastle Park, however, is a much different story. Arsenal does not have any issues finding the back of the net as Merritt Demiral scores in the first 10 minutes of the match, but we proceed to return the favor in the 39th minute with a Radoslav header finding the net. We go into the second half all tied up, but things take a drastic turn as Giuseppe Parda is dribbling towards goal and William Saliba fouls him in the box, with VAR making the call to give it as a penalty kick. Hubing steps up to take it, and he buries it in. As Arsenal then go on the attack to get a goal back, a counter-attack eventually leads to Adam Lozek finding Giuseppe Parda with a cross for our third goal, and in front of a sold-out Tynecastle Park, we book our ticket to Greece as Heart of Midlothian will once again play in the Champions League final.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So why don't you show me what you plan to do about them?
Good God, this team is stacked. Well, we'll deal with them in due time. We've got the Scottish Cup final now, and I want revenge, and I'm sure the boys are going to start so well that it's not going to... How are we 2-0 down in the first 15 minutes? Thankfully, Oscar Gluck gets to go back at the 19th minute mark, and we settle down for the rest of the half. We trail by 1 going into the second half, but it is Gluck once again stepping up as he ties it in the 53rd minute with a counter-attack off of a Rangers set piece. At this point, we're pushing the tempo and attacking further, and finally a breakthrough goal happens in the 70th minute as Giuseppe Parda's strike inside of the box gives us a 3-2 lead. Only for that lead to evaporate in smoke within less than 5 minutes. With memories of what happened 2 seasons ago, we make a quick shift in formation going to a 4-3-3, and eventually we catch Rangers on the counter yet again with none other than Christian Eriksen finding Oscar Gluck. After 3 long years, the Scottish Cup is once again ours. The treble has been accomplished for our second time here, but we still got one more competition left, and it's the most important one. The Champions League final against Napoli is here. They clearly show from the opening that they're not messing around as Kim Min-jae's header finds the back of the net at the 6th minute off of a set piece. Not an ideal start, but that seems to wake the team up as we proceed to go on the offense, getting a majority of the shots, even with Napoli retaining a majority of the possession. Much like in the second leg of last year's semifinal, they are looking to ride this one out with the 1-0 result, and that doesn't get any better when Matheus Cunha goes down with an injury at the 49th minute.
Not again. Yeah, no, this is a serious injury, lads. We need to get this guy on the buggy.
Honestly, it's not looking good. We go from the 4-2-3-1 we started with our familiar 4-3-1-2 to push for a goal in the last 20 minutes. And while Napoli is pushing for a second goal of their own, it's their own folly that is their undoing as Victor Osimhen attempts to murder Danilo in cold blood.
Get him off the field! That was diabolical!
And eventually, almost as if it's a repeat of last year, the 89th minute sees Hubens getting across under the box, The ball bouncing off of Jaden Jarrett and Adam Loza capitalizing on it, tying the game up 1-1.
A few minutes later.
The man who missed the Champions League final last season, making the difference in this year's edition and giving us a chance to survive.
This is trouble!
Oh, for sakes. So we go to extra time. There is no winner to be found there. And yes, this means we're going to decide the Champions League in penalty kicks. But within these, as Christian Eriksen, Frank Braub, and Oscar Gluck open up the scoring, I remember that we have something that Napoli does not. Emiliano Martinez. A huge save by Emi Martinez gives us the huge advantage here, as Loza converts it to make it 3-1. Maling Sarr keeps Napoli within 1, then Renato Sanchez converts to make it 4-2. It's on Lobotka to step up to take this next one. Emiliano Martinez with the save, and oh my god, we've done it. We have won the Champions League in the most heart-attack-inducing way humanly possible. At long last, a team in Scotland outside of the old firm and Sir Alex Ferguson's Aberdeen to achieve continental glory. And after last year's heartbreak, it's triumph and jubilation through just sheer dumb luck in the streets of Edinburgh as we celebrate an unlikely quadruple trophy campaign. What we set out to do in Scottish football to break old firm's dominance has been achieved. But now, the bigger task remains: maintaining the status as the best in Scotland, and most importantly, the best in Europe. But that's another story for another time entirely.